You're probably forgotten, but these things to weigh me down. I missed the way my mama knew what to do. She said to do right by your neighbor, and I'll do right by you. When we get older, we can forget the truth, that if you do right by your neighbor, then they'll do right by you.
Please welcome Vice President, Product Management, Oracle NetSuite, Rob McElligan.
Welcome to SuiteWorld, and welcome to the first general session. I think you'll find this session, and we're going to focus on the theme of growth, consistent with Jim's presentation this morning. I think you'll find that this session actually complements Jim's really well. And of all the general sessions we're going to do, I think this is probably the one that fits in most with the theme of growth, and it's the future of financials. I think you'll also find that this will supplement Evan's keynote tomorrow. We're going to cover some features in some level of detail that are different than what Evan's going to talk about tomorrow. So this is a good session to level set at the right level of detail. The theme of this session is really challenges and opportunities, turning challenges into opportunities in the context of growth. And we're going to talk about how NetSuite financials can be there to help you get there. We have a couple of customers we're very thankful are going to attend and give us an example of how NetSuite has helped them. So the main session topics here is the focus on growth. Growth comes in many different ways. I mean, there's obviously native growth, but there's also growth globally as you expand. There's different business models and things like that that lend themselves to growth. And so our world-class financials are there to support that. And this session will get into the details of exactly how we do that. A couple of things about the numbers. I think probably the most interesting number here is the 40,000 organizations that use NetSuite financials. It is the core of the suite. Virtually all of our customers use NetSuite financials. It's one of the largest areas of investment for NetSuite, and it continues to be just that. I think the other thing that's interesting, Jim touched on it this morning, is 199 countries and territories deploy NetSuite financials. It actually kind of scares me a little bit as the development guy that puts this stuff together, because it is a challenge that we've embraced and we've taken on. So we're excited to show you all that we've done. The other interesting number there is 100+ countries are supported with local tax and reporting requirements. We'll touch on what we do, and I think this is somewhat unique for ERP vendors, but we build a global solution, but we localize it for you to save you time in getting up and running. And I think that's something that's fairly unique about NetSuite. Trusted by 40,000 organizations, and we've been selling 20 years now. Every size business, small to large, every industry, and in every part of the world. What does this mean to you, and what does it mean to me? Well, we get to work with lots of customers that run businesses in lots of different ways. What I try to do, what my job is, and what NetSuite's job is to turn that into best practice, to actually produce a product that can help you guys run your businesses better, because we're learning from all the different companies that we work with. Two on here are here today to talk about their experience. So this is about turning all of your knowledge back into benefit everybody else. Reasons accounting software holds back growth. Well, there's a lot. I mean, basically, NetSuite tries to attack each of these things. Regulatory and controls. Now, this could be local tax laws. It could be accounting regulations. There's a number of different regulations that we're trying to embrace in the product, so it's out of the box and ready to go for you. Various systems, platforms, obviously on-premise, you tend to get the hairball, we like to refer to it as. I look at this as disparate systems. At NetSuite, you have one solution, it's there, everybody's on the same release, very good. Lack of visibility and automation. So this is all about saving accountants time by providing real-time visibility to your data for better insight and better decision making. But also automation. We're going to talk in a little bit about one of the things we're doing to automate, in particular, some of our intercompany business processes. So these are some of the things that I think hold back growth, and that NetSuite is trying to remove these obstacles, basically. This slide actually caught me a little bit off guard, but over the last 5 years, the blue is US-only business transactions. Now, this is across the NetSuite farm. So all the transactions within NetSuite that were US-centric in 2014 was over 50%. As of today, almost 75% of our transactions are global in nature. So something outside of a US-centric transaction. So NetSuite really is touching, international functionality, companies who are doing business internationally, et cetera. And this is, continuing to grow. So a very interesting bit of information there that actually caught me off guard. Now, why we like to refer to NetSuite as the #1 cloud financials application. I think these are some of the 6 reasons our customers would say they love NetSuite, global and local. So, as I mentioned earlier, we build functionality that is for global enterprises regardless of where they're headquartered. We also productize the last mile of functionality. Taxes, local reporting, et cetera, et cetera. As I mentioned, a lot of companies will not do that. So we're not asking you to implement and do things that are going to cost you more money and take longer to get up and running. We're actually productizing that. Always real time. Why does that matter? Well, a lot of companies or a lot of competitors are more batch process oriented, and we post to the GL real time. That's a benefit of up-to-date information that leads to better decisions. Making compliance a snap, I talked about that. Our job is out of the box to get you up and running in whatever geography you're operating out of. The partner ecosystem and supporting that, that's a very fundamental thing we do as we design our product. I like to refer to it as interoperability. When we build product, yes, we build it for the suite. We try to leverage a lot of the capabilities within NetSuite, but we also understand that there's other systems out there, our partner community, et cetera. So we design our product with interoperability in mind. That's a fundamental thing that we do in the development organization. Hybrid models. So this is interesting. A couple years ago at SuiteWorld, we talked about unified billing and revenue recognition. A hybrid model might be your business is growing because you're changing your business model. Maybe you're selling your products based on a subscription or something like that. So what we try to do here is have a unified billing engine for customer invoicing, a unified revenue recognition engine, all whether you're running sales orders or subscriptions or projects. So, and then point and click customization. Our platform, one of our competitive advantages, custom records, custom fields, taking some of the changes you make and automatically moving those forward. But also configurability of the system and making it easy, and you can tailor it for specific roles. A lot of what Suite success is in fact just doing that and packaging and configuring out of the box for your business and your specific roles. So I think these are some of the reasons that we've been successful, and hopefully some of the reasons that our customers are happy. And secure, reliable, scalable. We're a pioneer cloud vendor. So application security, data security, our data centers are secure, et cetera, et cetera. So things like Jim mentioned this morning, GDPR. These are things that we provide you. You don't have to worry about it. So that's, and I think actually Mark talked about it as well. And one other thing that's interesting is we're coming up with all this great technology. You want to be able to consume that in weeks, days, weeks, not years. So another benefit of the cloud. Neil's going to talk shortly about suite success and how that really takes this picture and makes it a reality. So finally, what do our customers need? Well, our customers need the ability to consume the technology quickly. They need the ability to expand globally as their business grows. They want to be able to make sure their software does not hinder that growth. Automation and ease of use, very important. You want productive employees, productive accountants, et cetera. Enhanced reporting and analytics, and then the ability to take advantage of innovative new features. So this is what we feel our customers need. And I'm going to turn it over to Neil McLaughlin, Director of Product Management. He is going to get into some details and some examples of some of these capabilities. Neil?
So, good afternoon. Rob has outlined a number of needs that you have, and I'm going to try and tie some of those together with what we're doing in the product, what we've done, what we're doing, and see how we can help you moving forward. So, just a quick side story. When I was first asked to do this presentation, I thought, this is great. I get to talk to 3,000 people. And then I realized there were two downsides. The first thing is most of my bosses are actually sitting in the front row. The other thing was that Liverpool are playing Roma today in the first leg of the European semi-final. Spoiler alert, I'm happy. And I'm not a Roma fan. So, anyway, back to the business. So how are we going to help you in your ability to consume technology? You know, one of our key differentiators, and Jim talked about it, is our suite success. Now, if you're a new prospect, if you're a new customer, you've heard of, you're implementing Suite Success, but it's not just about our new prospects and our new customers. It's also about you, our existing customers. And really, Suite Success affords you a great opportunity to be able to leverage all the industry knowledge that we've got, that we receive from you as well, we've learned from you. And really, across the whole build, engage, optimize, consume, we're giving you the opportunity to take advantage of all the capabilities that we're building in Suite Success. So let's take a look at a few of those. And we've got a few screenshots around roles, dashboards, reports, and KPIs. So as I say, a couple of screenshots. These are dashboards and KPIs. And then if you look at the next slide, reports and KPIs. So we've got a lot of capability there in terms of how you can use our software. And it's built for your industries. Now, as we look further down the line, there are actually 3 tickets that are available to you now. And if you are interested in hearing more about them, please reach out to the AMO organization, your AMO. But 2 that we have available today are the Accounting Toolkit. The Accounting Toolkit is delivering a unique set of dashboards in real time to your finance resources, to your accounting personnel, that helps them with their needs, their roles, based on your experience and our experience. The OneWorld upgrade is really about enabling you to move up to OneWorld very quickly, very simply, and to have that global business solution with multinational, multiple subsidiaries, everything that you would want to be able to grow internationally. And lastly, coming soon, the International Toolkit is really about providing a dashboard that monitors all the NetSuite transactions within your system, with metrics, with controls, designed to show you when you're in compliance and out of compliance. So that's Suite Success, and that's how you can consume technology much quicker, far more easily than it is in other solutions. So beyond that, global expansion. You've heard a lot about that from Jim today, and you will hear more from Evan tomorrow. There's a couple of things that I'd like to take a look at. One is global capability with local support, and the other is the intercompany framework. So, you know, you heard Jim talk about the 199, you heard Rob talk about the 199 countries that we support. If you'd like to go through and count them, please feel free to do so, but I do believe there are 199 there. And we're driving towards local to the core. But what exactly does that mean? How is that going to help you? Well, let's take a look. So, as I say, 199 countries that we support today. And there are certain countries that we're already local to the core. And as I say, I'm going to explain what that means in the next few slides. If you look at the blue dots, they're the countries where we believe we're already local to the core. As you move on, and a lot of people have talked about this, the green dots are where we're targeting to deliver local to the core, and Jim talked about that today. And really, that's a tangible example of where the Oracle purchase of NetSuite and the investment that they've made in us is really an opportunity that's being afforded to you. We are accelerating providing support local to the core in a significant number of countries. Well, let's see what exactly local to the core means. So, many of you already have One World capability. We're One World ready. That includes multiple books, multiple subsidiaries, and these are the capabilities that allow us to operate in those 199 countries. Now, if you've got One World capability and you're One World ready, you may still have to make some small gap adjustments. You may have to bring some data in from external systems. But all the capability is there to be able to do what you need to do. Now, the next level is localized. What does localized mean? Well, a lot of you have that already today with the countries where we are local to the core, but it's additional capabilities for a number of countries that more completely allow us to address the needs of those countries. And we provide enhanced capabilities around taxes, reporting, local business needs. And while it really is nearly local to the core, it's not quite there. You might still have to make some very minor changes or calculations to do your reporting. The last level is local to the core. And this is where we believe we deliver a solution that meets your local user needs and expectations. It's as if we designed and built the suite purposely for their country, for their needs. So let's take a closer look at what it actually means in terms of local to the core. So we're going to use the example of China. China is already one of those countries that we support in the 199. And remember, One World Ready allows you to do business in this country. So, beyond that, coming up next would be localized. And I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but just some examples of what we're doing there. Enhanced financial statements, Chinese account balance reports, new filter criteria, but this is all designed to build on the One World Ready. The next is local to the core, and that's where we start to get into those capabilities that the local users would expect to see. So we're going to provide additional bank connectivity, direct connection to the golden tax system. These are the sort of features that they would expect to see in their applications. Now, there's always a future. And part of our role is to ensure that your local ERP system in China, which is local to the core, continues to remain current and is continued to optimized, so that really we're making sure that you get the functionality and the needs and the requirements that you have to support your business in the countries we're providing as local to the core. Effectively, as your business requirements change, we'll change to meet your needs. So the other area that I wanted to look at in terms of global is intercompany framework. Nowadays, taxes and tariffs are the new norm. Unfortunately, we've heard a lot in the last few weeks about tariffs between the USA and China. And, hopefully that's something that will go away, but taxes are never going to go away. Every country wants to have their share of the taxes. They want to make sure that they're getting their fair share on any business you do. And they want to make sure that that's all auditable, so that they can go in and verify that the information that you're providing and the money that you're paying to them is correct. Maybe they want more, but at least we have to be able to prove that what they're getting is correct. The reality is that spreadsheets and Word documents aren't working. When I used to work as a CFO for a joint venture over in Europe, we used to use spreadsheets and Word documents, and it was the most cumbersome, most inefficient way of actually doing intercompany business. Business is expanding. It's growing domestically, it's growing globally, it's growing between all your subsidiaries and your legal entities. And you as consumers are demanding better, easier, more complete solutions. So let's take a look at how we're solving that problem. So from an operational excellence point of view, it's really about you shipping goods or providing services or a resource on a project, booking time to another subsidiary's project. And it's all about the execution of your business. It's how you behave operationally. Now, there is another dimension to this, which is obviously the financials. And while they might behave in the same way and follow the same flow as the operational, they don't necessarily have to. So if you look at the financial side, it could be that nowadays shared services, hubs, are very, very useful, very important to a lot of businesses. I use the example of Apple, but I use it guardedly as they ran foul of the European Union. However, what they were trying to do was minimize their tax exposure by channeling all of their business through Dublin. Now, a lot of companies are still trying to do that, and it's a valid way of doing business. So what we're proposing to do is solve this operational need and this financial excellence requirement. And what we're coming up with, we believe, is going to give you a competitive advantage and certainly give us a competitive advantage. And one of the things that I've heard this week from speaking to a lot of you is about the number of subsidiaries you have. You know, some people have talked to me about 10, some have talked about 50, some have talked about 200. So it is a growing part of your business. So, taking a look at this, what we're going to build is the intercompany framework concept. The bottom layer, if you like, of this is all built around the architectural enablers. We have things like the global vendor, the global customer that was released in 18.1. We will have in the future global employee, global project, and hopefully down the line global inventory. Built on top of that, we have the trade configurator, trade agreements and transfer pricing. The trade configurator allows you to set up your enterprise system within NetSuite. The trade agreements allows you to configure the business you do between your subsidiaries. It can be at a global level, it can be at a regional level, you can have subsidiary to subsidiary agreements, you can even have specific workflow agreements. And the transfer pricing capability is going to provide out-of-the-box transfer pricing methods around cost plus that you can vary, you can decide the percent. It's going to have revenue share, profit share, distribution cost share, and if you don't like any of them, you'll be able to make up your own. Now, on top of that layer, we're going to build all the accounting automation. The automated accounting, which is, setting up all your accounts payable to and from accounts, the currency that it's going to be in, whether you need documentation, the language that you're going to do business in. We're going to do the intercompany reconciliations, disputes, and eliminations. And then we're ultimately going to provide the settlement and netting capability. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we'll have the hub relationship and shared services all supported there. The automated accounting, for example, will be schedulable or on demand. So the top layer is where it all comes together. This is the workflows. This is how NetSuite operates. This is how you do business in the system. And there you can see just some examples around cross-sub fulfillment and time and expense. Well, what does this mean for you as a business? Well, the reality is you don't want your employees on the shop floor or your project resources actually deciding which accounts they're going to book to. I encountered that in the past. It's not a good conclusion. So the accountants will set up the organizational setup, they'll set up the accounting automation, and all your employees have to worry about is actually doing their job, because behind the scenes, everything will be taken care of you and fully automated. So, that's the intercompany framework. One of the things that we would like to do down the line, actually, is visualize all of that, because lists and reports are great, but it's also very, very easy to consume information if it's visual. And there you saw a very quick map of the world with all your subsidiaries, and you'll have the ability to drill down onto a country, so you can see Berlin, you can see the trade agreements they have, you can see the restricted trade agreements, you can see their net APAR position, and you'll be able to drill down to the individual balances between subsidiaries and see all the items that are in dispute. So really, we believe the intercompany framework is going to meet all your needs to execute intercompany business very efficiently, very streamlined, very easy, reducing your risk, and actually giving you a chance to focus on doing the business that you do, not on doing the accounting. So let's move on to how we're improving automation and ease of use. Here we're talking about cash management. So the key things around cash management are automating this process. You don't want your resources sitting around when they can do other things that add value to business, matching transactions from your bank account into your AP and your AR ledgers. You also want to have insight and control over your bank balances. You want to be able to see the information in real time. You want to be able to make decisions. So it's about the visibility. It's about the insight, which is really about cash flow forecasting, it's about planning, it's about predictive cash analysis. So let's take a look at what all of that means. So, the reality is that cash is still king. And our goal is to support your business anywhere in the world with whatever bank you're doing business with. We first introduced this capability in 17.2, and we continue to enhance it in 18.1, and we will continue in coming releases. Many of you are using this capability today. I've spoken to a number of customers, and you love it. It's really something that you've been asking for a long time, and we're delivering. So this capability, we think, is innovative, it's automated, it's easy to use, and again, it reduces risk. So let's take a look at what's coming, what's available now, what's coming next, and what's available in the future. So already available within cash management, you have cash balance control. You have the intelligent transaction matching capability, which again is another one of those functions, another one of those capabilities where we provide out-of-the-box matching rules. You know, it could be 5 points of matching. It could be the invoice number, it could be the balance, it could be the date, it could be the customer. 5 points of matching. If you don't like that, you can create your own. We're also giving you the ability to define which accounts you're going to apply the matching to. So there's a lot of capability that we're adding there. And as I say, we've got a lot of out-of-the-box algorithms that we're providing. If you look at what's coming next, automated cash application, bank statement processing, and a full foundational layer built around the audit, control, security, compliance, banking integration. And the banking integration is an interesting one. The world is moving away from checks. I know we still have checks in the US, but the world is moving away. It's moving towards direct bank connectivity. So the ability to real-time process transactions from your bank into your NetSuite cash management modules, we're going to provide that capability. We're going to give you the ability through the automated cash application to create journals automatically for bank fees, for tax on bank fees. And they can be posted automatically. You can decide to review them. And that's very important when you're looking at Europe and other regions. And then the other thing that happens in the real world in business is customers may pay you $5 short, or they may pay you $10 short. So we're going to provide you with the tolerance capability. So you can set a threshold, say of $5, anything under $5, the system will create a journal and write it off to you to a specific account. Now, down the line, we're also going to be providing flexibility around improved tolerance matching. So if there are different reasons for tolerances, you'll be able to automate the process of creating the journals with different account codes and different reason codes. So as we look further down the line, we're going to be providing with all the cash flow capabilities, the cash flow planning, the forecasting, excuse me, the predictive analytics around what confidence do I have of when my customer's going to pay. And we're going to be putting all of that, or a lot of that, in the cash flow work center. So we believe that the cash management strategy that we've got now already available and coming in the future is actually going to make it easier for you to manage all your banks and cash within your business. So, excuse me. Let's take a look to see how we are helping you with your reporting, supporting your ability to make decisions based on the data within your system. And we're going to take a look at revenue recognition, and in this case, we're going to take a look at ASC 606, IFRS 15. We're going to have a look at PBCS, which is our planning, budgeting, cloud services. And lastly, we're going to take a look at Suite Analytics. So, in terms of revenue recognition, we have consistently demonstrated our commitment to help you remain compliant. And a good example of this is ASC 606, IFRS 15. And this is a commitment that we're going to continue going forward. And it's also something as private companies and public companies still this year, but private companies certainly migrate over to 606. We're going to be there to support you. And further ahead, I know some of you have already been asking us about ASC 842, IFRS 16. We're already aware of that. We're already working as a team to provide a solution, and we are going to be communicating how we're going to manage that requirement for you as well. So please feel free to talk to us about that. Now, in respect of ASC 606 and the revenue recognition, I just want to call out a couple of things. I'm not going to go through all of these in detail. We support your compliance now, and we will continue to do that in the future. That is a commitment that we have previously made and continue to make. The capability that we've got actually allows for flexibility within your revenue plan. So you can make amendments, you can put things on hold, you can make changes. We support all of that. We have a capability around the dynamic fair value pricing engine. And then lastly, we're providing real-time revenue reporting capabilities. So there's a lot of capability we've built into the product. We're going to continue to support you. And as new requirements come up, such as ASC 842, we're going to make sure that we continue to provide you with solutions or answers to how you're going to support these. And if you do want more information around this, we've got a very good white paper on revenue recognition and ASC 606, so please feel free to take a look. So the next thing I really want to talk about is PBCS. It's already available to you, our customers. It is definitely a world-class planning and budgeting solution. I used an older version years and years ago and loved it then, so it's great to have this product again now within our portfolio. And it has been integrated and configured specifically for you, our NetSuite customers. So it's one of those tools that, again, being part of the bigger Oracle family, we've had access to and are able to use for you, our customers. So some of the things that are important there, and the slide has been building, it's easy to set up, it's easy to configure, and you have the ability to migrate in your existing spreadsheets. It's a flexible modeling tool. It will meet your business needs. It has what-if capability. It's easy to format, and it has charting capabilities. And then really, if it's integrated or where you use it with SmartView in Excel Plus, you have the capability to do your reports. Very often, a lot of customers will say to me, my past experience is, how do I produce my reports? What's the best way to do that? This is a tool that allows you to do that. And if you look a little further down the horizon, you will see that we will start to deliver industry-specific offerings. So we will be tailoring, with content and standard sort of report formats, solutions for your industry. And that feeds back, if you like, right to the very, very beginning where we talked about suite success and how you consume technology that much more quickly. So the other thing I want to talk about is around the suite analytics. And you're going to hear a lot more about this from Evan tomorrow, so I'm not going to steal his thunder. What I am going to do, though, is I'm going to talk about how this, for finance and accounting professionals, is actually going to add a lot of value and make it easier for you to get data out of the system. All the information is in the system, but it's accessing the data that's important. And speaking as an accountant myself, one of the things that I'm not very good at is actually writing code. I can understand when it's not written well, as I know all of you can as well, but I'm not very good at writing it. And one of the challenges I always faced with reporting tools was how to build the links between the tables. So what we're doing is, we're making it easy to create those joins yourself in save searches, multiple table joins, and we're making it easy so that you can get to the right data at the right time. So there you see an example of one of the screens for the code, I hasten to point out, around constructing your reports. Now, the other thing that is great for accountants is the Excel presentation format. As I say, as an accountant, I love working in Excel. So for me, this is a great opportunity. Now, on top of that, we've also built the pivot table capability. So you have both Excel, you have the pivot analysis. And then really the last thing, if you want to speak about it, is around around the graphic support. So you will have out-of-the-box graphic support, Excel capability, pivot type functionality. We will provide, down the line, ultimately over time, industry searches, dashboards configured for your industry, configured for roles within your industry, and we'll continue to take the knowledge back from you to continue to enhance that product. So this solution, together with PBCS, are really providing insights into your business. You know, not merely looking at the history, but it's actually affording you the opportunity to see where you need to make decisions and enabling those decisions so that you can move forward and grow your business. And we're going to make sure that this is future-proof, automated with those industry offerings, streamlined. It's security cognizant, as Rob spoke about earlier. We have all the security that you would expect around that, but it's also easy to deploy. The last thing I want to talk about, and again, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I understand Evan's going to be speaking about this tomorrow. As Rob said, this is to supplement what Evan's talking about. But really, the future's not just about debits and credits. We all know that. It's not just about period end closing. We have to do that as accountants. That is required. But really, it's about the accountant moving much more into the role of the chief operating officer. It's how we become immersed in the business and those key decisions. So what we're looking to do through artificial intelligence and through mobile is to see how we can support you in making the decisions for your business to enable you to grow quicker. So some of the things that we're considering when you look at this in terms of artificial intelligence and the experience, it's things like cash flow predictions, it's audit risk analysis, it's project time and budget predictions and analysis. And when you get into mobile, we're looking at things like time entry using GPS. So I'm on my phone and the system knows where I am and it says, hey, I think you're in Las Vegas this week, I think you're on this project, would you like me to book 8 hours? Natively, I can answer back on my phone, go yes, and it would say which task, and I'll tell it the task, and it will process the time. We'll also be able to do resource availability and selection, and employee self-service down the line. So the idea here is around all that we're doing with artificial intelligence and the mobile is to increase your productivity, make timely and better decisions, reduce your risk, and really in today's world, it's about working in smart clients, and it's your expectations. So, just to summarize, what I'd like to do is take you back to where Rob introduced me. Ability to consume technology. We talked about Suite success and how we're rolling that out to you, how we're providing those toolkits, and how you've got more opportunity to avail yourself of that industry knowledge. Global expansion we're supporting through local to the core, and the intercompany framework. Cash management is going to support your automation. Ease of use, freeing up those critical resources to actually go and do other value-add work. We're enhancing your ability to see data within your system, to make the right decisions through PBCS and through Suite Analytics. And then really for the future, we're already engaged in working on artificial intelligence and mobile deliverables. So hopefully I've given you a chance to see how all of this ties together. And thank you for the opportunity to do that. And I'd like to now introduce Evan Hebby, who's going to invite some of the customers up so that you can hear from them. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. As Neil said, thank you so much. I'm Evan Hebby. I run industry marketing here at NetSuite. Maybe not the Evan everyone was hoping for, but you're stuck with me for now. So we will go through a couple of customer interviews today, and I'm just going to jump right in. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Gary Lowe from Sun Moon Distributing Company. Thanks for joining us, Gary. Really appreciate you coming all the way from Singapore to be with us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here.
Awesome. So just to get us kicked off, could you give us a little bit of background on Sun Moon, what it is that you do, and how you became involved with the company?
Well, Sun Moon as a company was, when I came into the company, it was like a Sunkiss is equivalent to oranges. Sun Moon was equivalent Fuji apples coming up from China. And it was a company that was actually one of the leaders in selling to Asia. They sell primarily to Southeast Asia. And we came in at a time 10 years ago where the company was at the brink of bankruptcy. And as a private equity owner, we came into the company to rescue the company and transform the company from one that, instead of growth, it was actually at the brink of collapse.
Absolutely. So can you give us a little bit of background on the size of the company and how you sort of changed the business model a little bit as you got involved with it?
Yeah, well, so we sort of like, the analogy would be like if you say that the Uber and the Airbnb came out now, we were like trying to get rid of the dinosaur. We had an area of plantations that is about 1,900 hectares, which is equivalent to about 1,900 baseball fields. We had 1.2 million trees. We had cold rooms bigger than this a few times. And so the transformation was to get rid of assets, heavy assets that was basically bleeding the company. And then, so the analogy they had was like they wanted to be the one dragon, but as you know, dragons don't exist, right? So we came in and we actually chopped the dragon's head and faced the dragon's head towards the consumer, and we basically used the dragon's head as the way to present ourselves and turn from a very asset-heavy company to one of an asset-light one.
Absolutely. So I've been with NetSuite for about 4 years now, and one of the most remarkable stories I've ever heard was about your company and how you recovered from a fire that affected you. Can you tell us a little bit about that fire and how NetSuite was able to support you even when your entire office was up in flames and then drowned in water from the sprinkler system?
No, that's right. So it's kind of like a sad and happy incident that happened. The good part was transforming a very heavy asset company to an asset-light company was done because we implemented NetSuite. So as you can tell, I'm definitely a one world happy customer. So that's why I'm sitting here. So after that implementation was implemented in 5 months, 1 month after implementation, we had a fire in the office, and we could get into the office for the next 2 months. But the best part about it was that we never lost a day in our operation because we were on NetSuite.
Yeah, and taking it a step back a little bit, you mentioned to me when we were discussing this conference and discussing our interview, some of your decision-making process, that cloud was really one of the #1 things that you were looking after. Can you talk a little bit about the decision-making process and choosing NetSuite for Sun Moon?
Yeah, well, the transformation happens because we deal with about 22,000 point of sales in terms of what we do. So basically, we turn something like a Sunkist company to become like a Dole or Del Monte. So we started moving a lot more products than instead of just Fuji apples, we started moving a lot of other fruits from a lot of other countries. So if you imagine 22,000 point of sales, we have, if you talk about households, we probably sell to 100 million households now. We're part of the Alibaba platform. We have about 150 suppliers. We have about 100 over products right now. Now, when we look about how do you manage that kind of information, I used to be working in a company that was using pen and paper with Excel spreadsheet. And after when NetSuite came on board, it was a decision that I needed to basically be able to sort of like wanted to be a Captain Kirk in a starship, in an enterprise looking at what's going on. I can't be running to the engine room and ask Scotty what's going on. That's basically the kind of idea that we had, and that's why we use NetSuite for that.
And during the selection process, can you talk a little bit about some of the other solutions? You told me a really funny story that maybe you could share about some of the other options that you had at the time.
Well, there were a couple, and I guess the other famous one was starting with an S. So actually, I was quite firm about changing an ERP system with our competitor. And my team came back one day from a free conference held by NetSuite in Singapore. And the 2-person who went for that conference just came up to me and says, "Boss, you got to go for this conference, or you got to hear about this company called NetSuite." And I go, "What? I've never heard of this company." And then, so I had some presentation done by NetSuite, and that was sort of like it was like Neil, right? He does the good. They got me at hello. So yeah, that was it.
And that was 2 years ago, a year and a half ago?
A year and a half ago.
Perfect. So you told us a bunch about your growth trajectory, how you acquired the company, how you became involved with the company. Taking that a step further, can you tell us a little bit more about how that model has really changed from B2C to B2B? What are some of the most important things that have changed, and what are some of the most important things that will continue to change?
Well, the biggest change, I think, for as a business owner is to be able to sort of know what's going on my phone. I mean, in the days when I was running this company, it was tough just to get asking my finance to tell me what's our AR, what's our AP, and then when we try to do a consolidated accounts and trying to basically do reporting, because we are actually a public listed company and doing it on a quarterly basis, it's tough, right? Now, having it on NetSuite, the best part of it is everything's on my mobile. And I actually look at the ability to track and see how many containers are moving, and I probably know the details of actually the POs before they even actually get entered. So a lot of the data that I get on a daily basis has changed. Primarily going forward, we've now happy to say that we're probably the first company who has actually in Asia to implement the SuiteWorld, Suite Commerce Advanced. So we have now been able to then turn the model a little bit different, where we have actually put on a B2B model on your SCA, so your Suite Commerce Advanced. And instead of putting it as a B2C straight away, we actually did a B2B format, so that imagine that the buyers now will be able to get the kind of information that used to be on Excel spreadsheet or is actually sent by email. We're now being able to put it all in terms of quotations, putting it onto a system, and being able as a business owner to actually get the data in one area rather than in all the different salespeople. That's basically the biggest difference.
Yeah, and you said you started using Suite Commerce just about a couple months ago, or when did that?
Yeah, we're happy to say that it was actually gone live about a month ago. So it's been a transformation from that pen and paper dinosaur that we were running to something that's a little bit more of an advanced player, going into from NetSuite, SuiteWorld to Suite Commerce Advanced. And of course, we are looking for all the good things that Neil is saying. We are looking forward to all the good stuff that's coming up from there.
Yeah, and if you wanted to just talk a little bit about your future vision of the company, I know we talked a ton about the blockchain, about AI and some of that. What do you really see as the next frontier for SunMoon?
Well, I think the transformation as a private equity owner was to basically get to a company where we can get the data. I mean, that's kind of like always been one where, taking the Captain Kirk Star Trek analogy, it's difficult to sort of chart new frontiers when you don't even know what's going on. So I think that's really where we see the biggest difference. Now, with the NetSuite data that I've now been able to now manage the company on a dashboard, and when things goes wrong, I wasn't in a stage where in the past I have to go down to the PO, look at which customer, get into the details, and then look at all the variables that has caused that problem to happen. Now, with the system being available on the phone, I can actually pick up some things and then really see what's going on. Now, to then go into the IoT of things, to go into blockchain, and again, like you said, AI. Well, I think like what Jim said earlier, AI isn't about having a robot tell me what to do, but really to basically be more efficient about how I do it. Right? So to us, for example, we're moving fruits from Peru, Chile, Argentina, Mexico, New Zealand, Australia, South Africa. Now, we need to know how much do we buy, what do we buy. For example, an apple is an apple, but what kind of apple, and where does this apple go? So, this is kind of like, if you do not have the data, I don't think you can talk about the IoT of things, you can't talk about blockchain, nor can you talk about AI. So I'm kind of excited that at least we've got the basis covered first.
Right. It sounds like NetSuite is really that foundation you've built, and you're going to expand upon that block by block, which is awesome to hear that NetSuite can help be a part of that story. As my last question, I'm going to borrow from Jim's session earlier today. Would you mind sharing with the audience the best piece of advice you've ever gotten?
Well, I think the best piece of advice I had was to say that you should really listen to the customer. And, I think that's really what we've focused on. If I were to use the analogy that the customer or the consumer is the star, then I think that's really what we've been focusing. We really want to make sure that our consumer feels that they are the star. And then as a company philosophy, SunMoon, I guess when you stick the customer as the star and the sun and the moon are aligned, I guess we will definitely find our way home.
Thank you so much, Gary. Really appreciate you being here with us today. And we'll keep it rolling right along. With that, I'd like to invite Mark Huffman, the COO of Blackline, to the stage.
Out on the verge of the rest of our lives tonight, top of the world and the dress to the night.
We're going to show them.
So before we got started with the Q&A, we wanted to just show you how on point our sock game is. Well coordinated.
I am
Sweet
sporting
Stanley's.
my 2017 edition of Sweet Stanley socks. Yes.
These are the 2018 edition, so younger, faster, better model.
Yes.
Just
You can always say that about somebody that's not me.
Thanks so much for being here again, Mark. It's almost like you never left us.
Well, it's been a little while, but it's been the last 24 hours being back with the NetSuite family has been really rewarding, and had lots of very generous and gracious people come up to me, and as I think Evan's alluding to, I previously had a 14-year career here at NetSuite.
Yeah, and it's great to have you back. Like I said, it's really awesome to have you participate from a little bit of a different angle. So with that, I just wanted to get, like we did with Gary, get a little bit of background on BlackLine. So similar to NetSuite, it's a cloud accounting technology. Can you tell us a little bit of the background of your company and how it was started?
Sure, and important to note, I would only join a NetSuite company. So when I was actually part of the decision-making process when I was going through it. The company was founded. It's a really, really cool, innovative company, and I encourage you to look up the story. Our founder, also very unique, a female-founded, high-growth software company. She is a force of nature. Her name is Therese Tucker. She started the business in 2000, and much like Evan Goldberg's story, she was focused on one particular thing. She was actually trying to build wealth management software. And there was a couple of entrenched competitors in there, and so it didn't really go really well the first time. So she had to pivot to something else with very, very limited resources. So she pivoted by going to one of her biggest clients and saying, is there anything else that you need solutions to that I might be able to build with my little cadre of people? And what they needed was help with reconciling their general ledger accounts. And so what became BlackLine came out of that sort of pivot long time ago. And so 2000, the company is founded in one premise and then sort of pivots to something else, all the way to where we are today as a public, about a year and a half ago, a publicly listed company that went public on NetSuite.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I was going to go. Is BlackLine IPO'd in October 2016, and I believe it was 2011 when you were starting using NetSuite. So can you tell us about the growth story leading up to going public, using NetSuite back in 2011? Why did you choose to get onto a solution so early, and how did it help you for the IPO?
Well, so just to sort of set the stage for this as well. So between 2000 and 2011, the company, it's less than $15 million in revenue. So that's a long period of time for an entrepreneur like Therese and this company to exist without achieving what is cash flow positive status. So had to really bootstrap things, and you can imagine a scenario, and I'm sure that a lot of people in the room have been in those scenarios where you have to make choices on what you can and cannot invest in. And so thankfully at that time in 2011, they invested in NetSuite. I believe that we had 4 accountants or finance people on board at the time, and from 2011 to where we are today, the company has added several additional finance personnel people, and without any additional training or hiring very specific, NetSuite-only skills, has scaled up a modern finance organization because the system is so intuitive on how it works. It allows you to ramp up talent very, very quickly. So we were able to acquire a company. A company was called Runbook, a European company, 2 months before we took the company public, and able to get that company up and running on NetSuite and full reporting on that. Again, without any third-party help, without any training or anything like that. Filed and took the company public, as you mentioned, in 2016, all the way to where we are today, where the NetSuite team itself has done a fantastic job helping us get through the ASC 606 work that we need to do. And if our stock stays where it is at a certain point in the year, we'll be considered a large accelerated filer, and we'll have full SOX compliance that we'll need to be able to prove that we can do all within NetSuite.
Yeah, and it's an amazing story. I think the build that Therese was able to do, and then really able to build on that with her finance team, is really remarkable. And building on that, something we talk a lot about at NetSuite is the importance of starting early, the importance of making sure your growth phases are supported by the right solutions, by something that's scalable, that's really going to back you up into what you want to become in the future. In your opinion, why is it important for businesses to make that decision early and to start small?
Well, the cost of retooling in a high growth company is pretty substantial, not from just a capital perspective, but from an energy and focus perspective. And so in the case of Blackline, and like many people, if you put in the right system at the right time as you have this premise for growth and you believe in it, you sort of don't have to worry about the distraction, the expense, and the capital allocation around retooling. So getting the right infrastructure in at the right time in the company, allowing you to then efficiently grow your G&A functions properly, and not sort of take capital that could be allocated to other high growth things like investing in engineering and development, like investing in sales, marketing, and distribution. So getting the right framework in place at that stage. And then if you look to where we're headed, having that right framework in place as the discussions around AI take place, blockchain, machine learning, all those things are made possible by the building blocks of the right systems. You can't get a machine to tell you what to do next if it's based on the false premise of trying to cobble together a bunch of systems. It's all made possible by having the right framework in place when you're small.
And in addition to the systems, you talked a lot about hiring the right people, hiring them at the right time. So really the finance organization, or the concept of the finance organization has evolved immensely in the past decade. Can you talk a little bit about how technology plays a role in enabling the new finance organization, if you will?
Well, so we often, the accountant is sort of the center of everything that Blackline does. You could consider us the accountant's best friend. We really believe in the profession itself. And the role of the CFO and the controller in today's day and age is really, really complicated. You're sort of challenged with doing the things you need to do, record to report. You're challenged with closing the books, but you also have to manage this. How do I be strategic to the business, especially a growing business? And oftentimes these days when I talk to a CFO or controller, not only do they have those challenges, but they have a labor challenge. Talked to someone recently that just said, I've got 20% of the heads that I have allocated to my finance organization are empty, and I can't find the right people. And the premise is that these systems that people are using, were built 25, 30 years ago when accounting systems were built in the client server and on-premise world, that are the archaic systems that people use to close the books over and over and over again with the most rote types of transaction that you'd ever see in your life. It's like Groundhog Day. Let's just wake up and let's do this checklist once again and again and again. And the modern finance systems like NetSuite, systems like Blackline, are more appealing to a modern accountant, a modern finance person who's like very aspirational coming out of college, people that look like you, that don't look as great and tired as I do. This is appealing to those people that want to be high value-added strategic accountants. And I think these types of systems help solve for a lot of the things I previously talked about for the finance and controllership.
Yeah, and I think that's spot on. I've been hearing it across industries. I work on all of NetSuite services industries and software and advertising and media, and that's something that they're having an issue with talent retention if they don't have the right systems that allow their finance team to do what they want to do, to create and to be able to be a little bit more flexible than those of the past.
Yeah, you've got to record transactions. You've got to reduce risk, ensure compliance. But there's a strategic nature to finance and accounting that without the right infrastructure is underdeveloped and underutilized. And I think that's the difference between really progressive, great run companies that use modern tools like Blackline and NetSuite.
100%. And as my last question for today, I'll follow up with the same Jim question again. Can you tell us about the best piece of advice or business advice that you've ever gotten?
Well, so yes, it's a combination of things, but I always think about how I can influence things to get something that I think is what needs to happen about that. But a good friend of mine also has me convinced that not only do you influence the things that can happen out there, the world is actually, and the environment around you are going to send things your ways that are just meant to happen. And really understanding the difference between when you need to influence something and when the universe is telling you something, this is the direction and when it's going to happen, is pretty important. So you get at odds with yourself around that. And I have tried to apply that to my business life and my personal life, and it's worked pretty well for me.
I think so too. Perfect. We like to thank you one more time so much for joining us today, Mark, and really appreciate having you here today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, everybody.
I'm a rebel just a kickstand. I've been feeling it since 1966. Happy over.
And now, lastly, I'd like to bring Rob back to the stage to close out today's session. Thanks, Rob.
Great job. Well, I hope you all enjoyed those two interviews as much as I did. Special thanks to Mark and to Gary for participating. I got in this business a long time ago, and it was to develop product, to be able to listen to stories just like that. So I hope you enjoyed that. A special thanks to Neil and to Evan, my colleagues, for putting this session together. I'm hoping that in the brief hour that we had, you had an opportunity to see how NetSuite Global Financials are focused on enabling growth and global expansion of your businesses. It's a huge investment for us. We're going to continue to make that investment, and we certainly look forward to working more closely with each and every one of you as we move forward. Just as a final slide, I'd like to draw your attention to a couple of sessions. In fact, the first one, Going Global, Neil is going to give that. It's in the next half hour. He'll go a little bit deeper on the intercompany framework that he talked about. And that's actually one of the coolest projects that we've had working in global financials now for a little over a year, and we're going to continue working on that. But that's definitely going to save everybody who's a One World customer and who does intercompany processing a huge amount of time. I think that's actually something that we have applied and received a patent on. So very cool stuff. Anyhow, with that, I'm going to close. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope you got a lot out of this session. Thanks.